So everyone's calling for October, the month where we're going to see some pretty serious gains and a shift in the market. And actually, I agree for the most part. I'm going to outline some pretty important news in a second. However, there is also a case to be made the next week or two might not pan out exactly as we expect. I want to go over some of the reasons as to why you need to be prepared for a possible short-term retracement before eventually moving up into a very, very bullish November and December. Now, knowing this, of course, we can make exponential more multiples on the top side of our portfolios. So don't FOMO in just yet. Hear me out in this video, and maybe, just maybe, you can make some more money. Let's begin. But of course, before we get into the news itself, don't forget, if you find yourself not only enjoying this video, but finding the information useful, you can help support all I do and the hard work that goes into these videos with a like. And if you're down there and new to the channel, welcome. Hit that subscribe button as well. It really does mean a lot. Now, no matter where you go in crypto, Twitter, or YouTube, everyone is pointing at this chart right here, Bitcoin's monthly returns, and they're pointing out the fact that we had a very good September, actually Bitcoin's best September ever, in a month where most of us thought it was going to go down, okay, because of a few macro things. It's interesting because these macro events that were once used to, I guess, push a bearish sentiment are now being used to push a bullish sentiment, okay? And I'll get over what some of these are in a second here. But we have not just, of course, a bullish September, but if you pair what is coming up with what we've just had, 80% of Octobers were green, like Quinton over here says. 100% of election years had a green October, November, and December, so quick quarter four. We're obviously in election year right now. And 100% of the years with a green September had a green October, November, and December. So what this is pretty much saying is we're most likely going to have a very, very good October, November, and December. Very small chance we don't. Actually, it'll be a pretty much an anomaly if we don't. So everyone's really bullish right now. But what happens in crypto when everyone is pushing a certain direction? Usually, and you channel OGs know I've been saying this for a very long time, the opposite is bubbling underneath the surface. Okay, this is often because when they need to push a bullish or bearish sentiment, they need retail to really believe that's actually happening, and then they can dump on you as exit liquidity, or they can buy when you're selling. It's very simple, okay? Now, I'm not saying this is the whole entire thing on what's happening right now. I want to go over some other things as well in the charts. But you can see CoinGecko just as pulling one thing out of the hat here. CoinGecko put this tweet out a day ago, and an overwhelming amount of people think we're going to have a very, very bullish October. And you can see the cracks already. People know this. Crypto OGs know what this actually means. Again, it's the sentiment shift where they really get retail, okay? Okay? People are beginning to panic, not just on this, but I want to point out a very important tweet from Lady Crypto, okay? She said this a few days back. She said, when everyone starts thinking the same, do the opposite. And so she was bearish in September, but put this tweet out early September saying, hey, it might actually be bullish because everyone's bearish. And that's what happened. So again, it's thinking adjacent to what's actually happening in our face, on our face, real time, okay? Again, what does this person say in here? Opposite sentiment trader. It's pretty much what actually happens. Okay, so Credible Crypto, again, he's a channel favorite, right? We love Credible. We've had him on the show a few times here. Credible put this really interesting tweet out a few days ago as well, talking about spot CVD, perp CVD, and also open interest rising. This is all indications that we might actually be going lower, that we actually need to take out some of the open interest in Bitcoin itself, okay? Because it's not a sustained move to the upside if open interest levels are, of course, high. He's calling for a pretty quick move down, the distribution phase you can see in blue here, before we move up. Now, again, I'm not basing this entirely on Credible's opinion and decision. Actually, from the point in which he called this, when Bitcoin was at about $64,000, we did move down a little bit down here to mid 63, so it fell down a little bit, right? But there's still more room to possibly fall. And again, whether you agree with Credible, I'm just the messenger, okay? Or whether you disagree with him, or whether you disagree or agree with the whole opposite of the sentiment, it doesn't matter, in my opinion, okay? What you have to understand is, having a little bit of cash on the sidelines for a possible retracement is something a smart investor would want to be doing. And that's what I'm personally doing. Am I investing right now? Am I buying the altcoins I could have been buying the last 6 months at a 20, 30% increase? Hell no, absolutely not. Because I am someone who wants to only buy when the opportunity is right. And I've put enough money in, I'm sure many of you as well, into crypto over the last 6 months to the point where we don't want to be FOMOing in our money because the charts start going green again. Okay, you buy when it's red, not when it's green. All right, so just in my opinion, non-financial advice, think about just having some cash on the sidelines for the possibility we move down. And again, I'm not saying Fredible's correct here and that we possibly move down to the low 50s or the high 50s or even the low 60s, aka 60 or 61,000. I'm just saying be prepared, because if we do have a very quick flush, we might have a pretty quick change in direction temporarily for not just Bitcoin but alts. Now, alts have been remaining quite stable over this time. Actually, Bitcoin has been bleeding more than alts, which is unusual, but it shows signs that alts are ready to rip. There is confidence back in the market again, which is fantastic. But again, anything can happen. Now, on a bullish note, remember guys, we do have the FTX money coming in as well. So that's the bearish news. Let's admit, okay, yes, not even bearish news. Let me just clarify and say, it's not bearish. It's just preparing for a sort of temporary pullback, a fake out. I do think, and let me just say this off the record, I do think October will be a overall net bullish month. I think we're going to print green at the end of the month. And I think quarter four will be overwhelmingly bullish. There's so much happening. It's hard to be bearish, right? Like mentioned at the start of the video, again, these FTX creditor distributions are happening as well. A lot of people are talking about where's this money going to go. Now, again, like this Forbes article here, a major catalyst for crypto markets, especially for Bitcoin, Solana, and Solana network cryptocurrencies. I've got a video coming out tomorrow on a really, really bullish Solana ecosystem project. Okay? Now, I'll put this tweet out. By the way, go to Twitter right now. I'll leave the link down below to this actual poll and vote where you think this money will be going. Okay? This tweet itself mentioned those three projects or those three areas. Again, Render being one of those Solana network ecosystem projects. So again, let's see what happens. Okay, I think a lot of the top projects we've seen do really, really well so far in the best narratives, AI, DePIN, real-world assets, gaming. I think most of the money will flow to these areas and somewhere in between as well. DeFi, of course, includes real-world assets. So we'll see what happens. But another bullish factor is, guys, the Dixie is actually falling. And as you can see here, the Dixie is directly inversely correlated to Bitcoin. So when the Dixie falls, right, Bitcoin goes up. And a lot of us know this already. But what I want to point out here is that the Dixie fell back here late last year around this October pump, a little bit into it. Okay, it fell down about 5.5%. And recently it's fallen down in the same time, 5.5%. Okay, so could we begin seeing here a really bullish move to the upside? Well, of course, if you can see here, Bitcoin began moving up first. We can see that's happening again here before, again, the Dixie fell, and then we began to surge in that October pump. Same thing happening here. Dixie's falling. Could we possibly be seeing that move again begin? I mean, that is one of the many signals. Of course, the Fed is looking to cut rates by another 50 basis points already. Okay, so they are hyper bullish on this, actually pretty certain. It's 61, almost 62% certain they're going to drop it by another about 50 basis points coming up here in November. Very, very bullish. And like Cousin Crypto says as well, we also have CZ being free. All right, again, rate cuts are underway. The FTX repayments, and it's election year. Now, like I said earlier, the election year was once used, and I still do think it's uncertain as to what's going to happen on the markets. I don't think it should be definitely a bullish thing right now. I think it's still up in the air, but I think definitely as we get closer, again, markets like certainty, and I think it will begin to even out eventually. Now, it's important as well to recognize where we possibly are in the market, and it seems that we are possibly in that banana zone. We're about to have that massive swing to the upside. Again, this is very similar to where we were back in 2020, around that COVID crash time as well. We had that massive move up. Like I said before, many things are indicating we are at that point in time. Rex Capital here points out if we are going to be tracking the typical halving cycle timeframes, that we are only about 45% the way through. We have over half to still go, which is, of course, a very, very good sign to begin with, as well as we all know about the China news. Okay, China is trying to reignite their economy, which is, of course, a very good thing for many different economies around the world, including Australia, actually, all right, which is very good for us. Now, a really good indicator I love to use as well is the MVRVZ score, which pretty much just takes the current market cap and then pits it against the realized market cap, which is basically the market cap that calculates the last move, the last basically purchase price of each Bitcoin token, right from back when Bitcoin was at like $1 to the current price, and then works out the standard deviation between the two, to put it very simply, okay? This is a great way to figure out, hey, is the market overheated or is it undervalued? And it's, again, in the red zone here, usually when it's time to sell, green zone, obviously, when it's time to buy, okay? So I've put a bastardized explanation on that. I've explained this much better in other videos, but all we need to know is, again, this thing so far has been useful. Now, again, a tool is only as useful until it goes wrong. So I want to point that out. Again, PYTH cycle indicator is the exact same thing as well. Another good indicator I love to use here as well is this, which is the realized market cap hodl waves, where we look at the guys hodling for a long term and also the short-term holders as well. Short-term holders are in this darkish red color and the long-term holders are in the greenish colors. And obviously what we notice here is that when the long-term holders begin to sell, the short-term holders begin to buy. And again, that is a great indication of a shift of potential sentiment, like I mentioned in this video, where retail buys when the big boys sell. Again, you have to have the exit liquidity, of course, to make money in this game. So that's a whole big part of what I spoke about earlier on. Now, how can we benefit? Well, guys, it's simple. We benefit from holding a little bit of cash right now, taking advantage of possibly the last cheeky little dip we might have before a very, very bullish end of October, November, and December, with, of course, smaller pullbacks on the way. It's never a bad thing to hold some cash. You never know what might happen in real life as well. And then when we finally do have this massive, what I'm expecting to be a deep recession, maybe even depression in the next, let's say, 2 to 6 years, you're going to be able to make some good money if you sell all your crypto assets at or around the top. I get it. Oh, you can't time the top. So sell at realistic levels is what I'm sort of saying here, guys. Don't be one of them people that decide to hodl your crypto forever. Mathematically, it doesn't work out good for you anyway. We've touched on this a lot on the channel. If you bought Bitcoin today at, let's say, $66,000 and you sold that in 2030, so you held on for 2030's bull run and you sold at $1 million, if it goes to $1 million, you make $1 million, right? One Bitcoin, $1 million. But if you do what I call multi-cycle compounding, where you have it all today, you buy one Bitcoin, you sell it in 2025, use the money pretty much sold in 2025 to buy back into the next bear market, or again, that deep recession we might possibly have, and then sell it all in 2030. Even if Bitcoin goes to half the price, you would sell it over here by hodling. So it goes to 500K and you sell it 500K, you make pretty much the same amount of money. All right. So it's very important to recognize multi-cycle compounding. You can talk about tax. Yes, there's many different variables that do go into this, but we've done the math a million times. All in all, it works out much better for you to sell it all in 2025. Again, not financial advice. If we want to do this exact same example and compare this with $1 million, you're obviously going to make $2 million or 1.9 million in this compounding example. So it always works out better for you guys to do that. Of course, you might want to hold some Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever, Solana for the long term. That's up to you. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to make the most amount of money while I possibly can in my 20s, so I never have to work again in my life. Very simple. The way you can do this, by the way, is setting very realistic sell levels, like I did over here with Near Protocol recently on the channel. Actually, I did this in the private community. For the private community, guys, we used a strategy that I sort of managed to conjure up based on a few different exit plan strategies to find the best exit plan strategy out there. This is not only the safest exit plan strategy that I outlined in this YouTube video, but also the one that will make you the most amount of money. Okay, so it's hitting the safety and making the most money as possible. So this is sort of how it works here. And again, I've gone into detail in how this works in level 3 of the private community. If you want to have access, links, of course, are down below. Alternatively, watch the YouTube video. I'll leave that link down below as well. So if you have enough patience to understand this, you'll do just fine with the free content. Okay, so with that being said, thanks for watching this video. I hope you understand what's ahead of us. It's big. It's great. We're going to make a lot of money, at least some of us, right? Because you guys that won't are greedy. You won't know when to sell, but follow along. We'll keep you along for the journey and make some money, hopefully, together. Let's do it. Talk to you all soon. Take good care. Bye-bye.